water, earth, fire, air. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. But then, everything changed when Fortnite added bending. I feel something terribly wrong within myself when I see characters like blank doing blank bending. Lol. Like, it's super fun. The game is super fun, but it just feels weird. It's like, I'm not supposed to see this. This is not something I was supposed to see. But seeing different characters doing bending makes me think, well, if they were in the Avatar universe, what would they bend?
That's the explanation and the exposition to where I came up with the idea of this video. What would character we're gonna go through and see what I think characters would bend if they were able to bend in the Avatar universe. That's the entire how I got the idea for the video. That's it. All of it's right there.
Alright, let's get into it. So to decide which element a character can bend, I'm going based on general personality traits that most align with each element. In the show, they have emotions and traits that you kind of have to master in order to master that form of bending. So I'm matching the character's traits with those traits to put them in a specific category. Also, it's just vibes, you know? It's just like, hey, this is what I'm feeling, so I'm gonna put them here. If you disagree with me, that's okay. Let me know what you think each of them would be in the comments, I guess. Alright, let's get into it. I've been seeing Superman everywhere recently. I said that like I'm having hallucinations of Superman.
He's in my walls, all I can see is Superman.
I'm actually a pretty big Superman fan, and I think that Superman would be an airbender. I understand if that seems weird at first because, you know, the first thing you maybe think of when you think of Superman is strength, so you're like, oh, he'd probably be an earthbender. But at the character's core, he's all about peace and, like, doing the right thing in the most reasonable way possible. And I feel like that aligns pretty well with what we've seen of airbenders and what they have to master in order to master airbending. But what kind of bending do you think Superman would do? I was pausing so you could say something, but you didn't say anything, so I'm just gonna move on. Just comment it, I guess. You ran out of time, I'm sorry. Kinda have to bring up Batman. I feel like Batman would be a non-bender, but he'd have some, like, gadgets that would make it seem like he's bending just to confuse people. Like, he would use a bunch of weapons and gadgets that he created to mimic the abilities of benders, and then people would be like, yo, that guy's the Avatar. And then he'd be like,
Officer Bowles.
Alright, this one's my hot take. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi, but specifically prequels era Obi-Wan, would be an earthbender. I know that with the typical idea of Jedis, they're supposed to be like the keepers of the peace, so that would make sense for them to be airbenders, but when the Clone Wars were going, they just ended up being like war generals. And I think that Obi-Wan did a good job at that. He wasn't like aggressive, so he wouldn't be firebending. He wasn't like on the attack, he was more defensive, so I feel like that would make him earth. I think Anakin would probably be fire though. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Anakin. No, I didn't mean it like that, Anakin. I'm sorry. I do also think that Wonder Woman would be an earthbender. I don't know. It's kind of between earth and fire for her. I don't know. She's a great warrior, and when I think of a warrior, I think of those nations because they have, like, really good militias. This one I'm kind of 50-50, so let me know what you think. Maybe I'm completely wrong, too. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Adventure Time, and you can't ever stop me from mentioning Adventure Time, so I'm doing Finn from Adventure Time. Since Finn is the hero comet, and is destined to be the greatest hero, and he's reborn over and over to be a hero, I think Finn would be the Avatar. But I think the reincarnation of Finn that we see in the main Adventure Time show would be the Avatar, but start as a firebender. Because at the beginning of the series, he's all about, like, fighting and, like, destroying evil. But then by the end of the series, he's a pacifist, and he's like, you can't really decide good and evil. So it would have been like he started on fire and then ended on air. I feel like if you watched Adventure Time, you probably get what I'm saying. Also from Adventure Time, I feel like Princess Bubblegum would do something very similar to Batman, where she would use gadgets to replicate bending, but then also somehow she would be the Fire Lord. Like, 100 years ago, she manipulated them into thinking she was the greatest firebender ever, and now she's just in charge of the Fire Nation. Another hot take is I think Nightwing would be a waterbender. And I know that's weird because he's super acrobatic, so you're like, oh, he'd be air. Or he'd be like Batman and he would just use gadgets. But no. I think because in a lot of iterations of the character, he sees what Batman does and disagrees with it fundamentally and decides to go about doing it in a more helpful, healing way, he would be water. Also, he wears blue, and water's blue. I know water's not actually blue, just let me have this, please. The Human Torch is an easy one. I mean, look at him. Come on. Obviously, he's Earth. Spider-Man's a tough one because I can't decide between air and water. I think I'm gonna need a minute to think on this. Hopefully, an ad plays right now so I can have a little bit more time to think. No? Okay. Air because he's acrobatic, and you know the whole with great power comes great responsibility thing that Uncle Ben told him. But I feel like he's not a pacifist all the time. Like, I feel like when he needs to be aggressive, he can certainly be aggressive. Like when, you know, but like he still ultimately is good in his intentions. Like he wants. Sorry, a bird flew past my window. But I was saying, I feel like even when he does bad things, he's still doing it because he wants to like help somebody. So I don't know, water. What do you think? I'm gonna be honest, I could do this forever, but I don't want to bore you with a super long video. So let me know if you want me to do this again. If so, I probably will because this was fun. Comment what you think each character would bend, and let me know if you disagree with any of the takes that I had. But yeah, subscribe if you want. Also, okay, see you in the next one. Bye.